So I'm going to show you an example of how I draw diagrams. And actually, here's 2 pages. This is something that changed on the LSAT around test 66. No, not around test 66. On test 66, they switched logic games to 2-page format. So for the June 2007 test that we did, all the games were just on 1 page, and it's kind of like cramped space-wise. Then you can see on this test for 66, they've just got the setup and 1 question on the left-hand page, and then the other 5 questions on the right-hand page, and there's a whole lot of space. And most people liked this, because on the old tests, I used to hear people say, like, oh, there's not enough space, I don't have space to draw, and it was sometimes practiced on scrap paper because they had difficulty with fitting everything in. I'm actually not so sure they're doing you a favor by giving you this extra space. At least there's a lot of potential to use it incorrectly. What I see a lot of people do is they will put their diagram on this page, on the first page. They'll draw the diagram over here. And what's wrong with that is that the questions are all the way over here on the second page. And if you're looking at a diagram on the first page, but then you've got to look over to the far other side of the page to do the question, you suddenly have to engage part of your short-term working memory into finding the question and remembering where it was and remembering the diagram that you were looking at. And this seemingly trivial step massively increases the workload on your working memory, and you're just going to forget some stuff. I blurred these questions, by the way, because I can't show LSAT material on screen, but this will give you an idea of how I draw diagrams. So this game, I've drawn my main diagram. You can see it at the very bottom where it says like INS, those 2 diagrams. That's my main diagram, plus the rules numbered 1 and 2. And for every game, that's where I draw my main diagram. I want it to be in the same spot so that I don't think about it. Because if you get to think about where to look for something, you're using part of your brain power. If it's just always in the same spot, then it's effortless. Because that's how, like, the way we function in ordinary life is we don't just remember all the things we need to know in short-term working memory. We have a lot of stuff memorized, and it speeds us up. You want to apply the same principles on logic games. Do stuff in a regularized fashion so that certain things you don't have to remember. Like this number 1 and 2. This is part of a system that I do. These aren't rules 1 and 2. I don't know what rules 1 and 2 were for this game. But these are the first and second rules that I couldn't fit on the diagram. You'll see on this diagram, I've drawn like a little line with a greater than sign. For me, that means that I has more things than n. And you can see that in the first one, I've drawn 2 spaces for I and 1 space for n, because n had x. By the way, is everyone able? Yeah, you should all be seeing my screen right now. Yeah, so as much as possible, you want to put details on the main diagram, because then it's just there. There's no chance of forgetting it. And then the details you can't put, you want to put them in a numbered list. And then don't touch this diagram at all, because that also gets mentally confusing. If you've got a bunch of stuff like drawn on there and you're erasing stuff, you might erase a rule, you might incorrectly leave something, there might be smudges. So it can get confusing. Also, there's a huge value in having like the record of your past diagrams to show what can be true. And so I want to have that elsewhere. So you can see by the questions, I've drawn local diagrams. So these would serve to help me answer the questions, and the benefit of drawing it right by the question is that you have literally all the information of the question right there. So you can just look right back and forth between the answers and very quickly see what's right or what's wrong. This is one way that you can go faster, by having just 0 feedback. So I refer to the main diagram to see what to draw, or if I'm ever like not sure about the rules, then I'll go back and read them there. But I don't want to touch the main diagram otherwise. I want to draw all my stuff here by the questions and refer to it. And now I have a reference, so if the final question, if it's important to know that like W could be an N, then I can look at the second question there and see that it's right beside it, and that helps me eliminate answers more quickly.